Hello and welcome to episode 50 of Things We Play. Who? Yes, that's right. We're back. Good reason for us to come back was there was the Xbox event today. The new generation was unveiled. It was always weird. Did you find that weird that they've always referred to it as the new generation, not the next generation? I mean, the next generation kind of we've had before, and
I guess now it is the new generation as it's almost here.
Right. You don't think it's the next generation because it's the next one?
Yeah, it was referred to the next generation, but now you're saying they're referring to it as the new generation?
No, it's always been the new generation.
No,
the invite said the new generation.
Okay, up until this point, it's always been the next generation.
Has it?
Yeah, it's everyone that I know. It's always referred to
Isn't it generally next gen?
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. But I think they made a point of saying new generation to
Right.
separate from that because it's always next gen.
Yeah.
It's always the next generation. And Star Trek.
I always get slightly confused at the fact that they call the current generation most of the time next gen.
Yeah, it's because they never... It was weird. This was the only time with the PS3 and 360. It was the only time it never stopped. We just kept calling them next gen.
Right.
And I think that's just because it was one of the only times where they overlapped.
Okay.
Where we had, 360 and Xbox or PS2 and PS3 at the same time,
Sure.
kind of for a long
sure.
period of time. Anyway, we've just watched the show, and we thought we'd do a little bit of a talk about it before we ease back into normal episodes. We had a little break because Sean had a little break. But we won't get into that. Anyway, my name's Mike Oldman. I'm here with Joe Tanessa.
Hello.
And Sean Hart.
Hello, hello, hello.
Who's swallowing his own tongue. And yeah, we're here to talk about the new Xbox. New Xbox has a name, which is the kind of the biggest thing that came out today, and the thing that I was the most relieved to just learn, really. Not that it's the greatest name in the world, and we will discuss that.
Was it like a massive weight off your shoulders?
Yeah, it is, because it's kind of annoying not having anything to call. Then is it a 720 or the next box or whatever?
It is good to have an actual name for it.
It does help. It does help. And now, obviously, companies can start going, yeah, Watch Dogs is coming out on this, and this. Not PlayStation 3, not PlayStation 4 and other next-gen consoles. It's just kind of weird. They can go Xbox One, right? So it's called the Xbox One. Initial reactions to that was, I thought it was okay.
Yeah. I wasn't
It's not a bad
horrified
name.
or ecstatic.
Yeah.
I was just gonna.
It's not great.
No,
There's a lot of people. The immediate reaction online was people were freaking out, going, "It's Wii U, right?" But it's not as bad as Wii U.
No,
I just find it. For me, I find it really strange. And we've already had this argument offline today. But what I find strange is because I still call the original Xbox One.
Sure.
So it's kind of weird to go, what? It's like, because I'd already pinned this down as I thought they were going to call it just the Xbox, right? That seemed like the smartest thing to do. And so Xbox One, I was like, oh, cool, they've kind of done that because that's what I call the original Xbox. But it's just more confusing now because that is, I don't know. It's all right. It's not a bad name at all. It's one as in one, isn't it? It's not the number. Yeah. It's not 359 times worse than the 360.
But at the same time, it doesn't really matter when you're saying it.
No, true.
Whether it's written.
But they do that whole namby-pamby nonsense of like when the 360 came out, it was about putting you in the centre of the experience,
yeah, sure.
Everything being around you, and this was all about being the one unit that encompasses all the ring,
the one, much like
Neo, exactly, which is an anagram of one.
Yes,
I don't know if you knew that.
It is. Yeah. I did know.
I actually knew that before the Matrix.
Right.
But yeah, just a small fact.
Excellent.
Xbox One, cool. They showed it. So what we haven't discussed is, and we'll get to it when we get back into our normal episodes, but we didn't discuss the PS4 announcement at all.
No.
But the interesting thing about the PS4 announcement obviously was they didn't even show the PS4.
Yeah.
They showed a controller and then we're like, well, we don't know what it looks like.
Yeah, the PS4's coming. Here's a controller.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that's just because everyone at Sony was like, I don't know, that's that fucking silver box, all the cables coming out of it that sits under my desk. I don't know what it is.
Steve's using a rubber, so that doesn't bode well.
Exactly. So at least they showed it first of all, and they made a big deal out of going, here it is. This is the unit, and they went into a fair amount of depth on the actual console, I suppose. It was only an hour long. The presentation took place at the Redmond at Microsoft HQ, and it was all it was weird. It was only an hour long, so I think it was broadcast on TV. I think that was the main reason why it was governed by that. It was on Spike TV. But they went into quite a lot of details about it. They kind of looked like they were trying to prove a point against Sony of going, look, we're going to show you the console, we're going to tell you what the hardware specs are, pretty much. and they didn't really go into games.
No.
And that's kind of a bit, like you said, Joe, when you first arrived, you were like, oh, it's a bit underwhelming.
Yeah, it's one of those things because I don't remember the PS3 or the 360 having that press conference before E3. I'm just used to the big all-out E3
Yeah,
show.
they did. I mean, the 360 in particular had an MTV, had like a weird MTV special that Elijah Wood hosted. And it had this weird young hippie, sort of hipster girl come down. She wasn't a hippie. But she, this young like hipster girl comes down from the crowd. She's like, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you, the future of gaming. And then she like comes walking down through the crowd with like a little knapsack, like a satchel thing around her shoulder, and she just pulls out the 360 out of it and puts it on a plinth and says, yeah, it's fucking awesome. Look how cool everyone is. She's got boots on and a dress. You know, there's a dude over there with a fucking beanie on. You know, and there was all sort of like that. And then they did obviously a bigger thing at E3. So they have done it before, but it was still, this wasn't for us.
No.
As such, you know, this was for mass media. This is for BBC News tonight. You know, I'm guaranteed it's on there tonight. If
Sure.
already, I know it was on this morning. In fact, this morning they called it 7:20. But what can they do, right? That's the problem. No one knows what to fucking call it. So, yeah. So, what was I saying? They didn't go in. They went into some more details over what Sony did.
They did sort of like have a picture up with the entire spec list of what's actually inside of it.
Yeah, they've still
and then
been a
they've
bit.
done that bit where they sort of took it apart and was like, yeah, it's got all of this.
Yeah, they've still been a bit loose on some of the specs as to how it's going to work, but we know the basics of it's pretty much, comparable with the PS4. It's a little bit less actually, but that's never really hurt anyone in the past. But really, it's pretty much the same. The key things that came out of it were like 8 gigabytes RAM, 500 gigabyte hard drive, yada yada yada. It has like, I don't know, 5 billion tetra floppy bops.
500,000
I don't care.
transistors.
I don't care. The basic thing that always happens in this, and the games that they're going to show now aren't going to look that great, and ultimately they will look really good.
Yeah.
But that's fine. But interestingly, Kinect, as expected, Kinect 2.0 is mandatory. It's out of the box. It's there. That's fine. How do you feel about Kinect?
Yeah, I'm not fussed. If it makes things better, I'm good.
It's alright.
Yeah, I don't mind Kinect. I've never actually got one myself, and now
Well, I mean, one of the things that they showed quite a lot in the presentation was mainly voice control.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that was one thing I always really liked about Kinect. It's the first time ever you'll be able to say Xbox on, and the Xbox comes on.
Yeah, and like the commands seemed a lot better than they did with what Kinect has now.
Yeah.
There's like they seem a lot more. You can adjust what you say to it, and it will just.
I did
interpret
wonder
it.
how much of the presentation was real. It was kind of tricky to see, but again, always going to be the case. You've got to expect that. So anyway, the system itself, it looks like a Laserdisc player.
Yes,
And
it's very
it really
square.
does look like a Laserdisc player because it looks fucking massive as
Yeah.
well. Like
It is big.
it looks like, it doesn't look like something. It looks cool. I think we should say that as well. I think it looks really nice, and it looks like a sophisticated piece of kit. It looks like some sort of Bang & Olufsen like CD separate thing that would look cool in an Apple showroom or a very pretentious person's living room, right? And the Kinect as well, Kinect sensor kind of looks the same as that, and then the controllers look like third-party Xbox 360 controllers. But it looks expensive.
It looks really expensive,
really expensive. And when you think about how much is coming out of the box when you bought it with the Kinect sensor as well, just everything about that machine looks really fucking expensive.
It looks like it's going to cost you an arm and a leg just to get that box with everything inside of it.
It doesn't look like a games console. At the end of the day,
No.
it doesn't look like a games console. And I know we've been moving further away from games. Well, it's weird. We've sort of, as an industry, been moving further away from games consoles looking like games consoles.
Yeah.
Except not entirely, right? Like the Wii is less like a games console than earlier Nintendo stuff. The Xbox has certainly gone further away from games console when you consider the original Xbox, or the Xbox One, as I previously, until today, would refer to it. But also Sony's gone the other way, because the PS2 didn't look like a games console, and now with the PS3, the new editions that have done, the Slim and the things, they've looked more like games consoles as they've gone along. But as a rule, we've kind of gone away from the games console thing. This looks like a Panasonic 3DO.
It's like the way this press conference went as well, was like more of a, it's not a games console as much as it used to be, and
true.
it's just,
Well, it opened up, didn't it, with that
Yeah.
big montage of people, starting with Bill Gates and ending on, I don't know, Damon Lindelof and Steven Spielberg or whatever, going, TV's brilliant. You're like, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I love connecting my games console up to it. And then that was the kind of whole message throughout the whole thing. It was like, isn't TV great? You know, and wouldn't you love to connect your console up to your TV? And you're like, I do. Anyway, it's like, well, wouldn't you like to put your TV into your console?
And then run everything
You know?
from your
It's
console.
kind of like the relationship's changing. Whereas the TV used to take it all the time, and the console was just giving it and giving it and giving it. Now it's like the TV's going to start giving it back to the console.
Well, that's the thing. They want you to have more of a relationship as well.
They
so,
do.
So
It's
you've got to
getting
be in there as
intimate.
well. Yeah.
It's getting out there. So yes, that was kind of the big push was TV. We're changing TV, and it was smart. When they were in the 10 minutes into the presentation, I just kind of sat there and was just thinking, they've won. They've won this. They will dominate the living room with this because it does genuinely change TV. Problem was, from our point of view, so like, I don't really have a beef with TV anyway. It's kind of like
TV's just there for me to watch when I'm not really playing something.
yeah. So what's happening then? So the TV or your terrestrial TV or Sky TV or your Freeview TV or any broadcast that you're getting in essentially plugs into the Xbox One now, and then that fuses together essentially.
Does it only have a HDMI in, or does it have other inputs?
No, I believe it is just an HDMI
Yeah.
in. Which, yeah, in fair enough, yeah, you're not going to get stuff from an aerial off of that.
Yeah.
But everyone's getting their TV through HDMI generally these
Yeah,
days
yeah,
through
yeah.
Sky or something like that. Or just your digital Freeview that's already built into your TV. I
Yeah.
don't know how that would work, because presumably that would mean that my Freeview that's in my TV at the moment would not be able to go.
Because there's no...
There's
Yeah.
no output from a television.
No,
Sure.
no.
But then you just press your HDMI, your source button, right? And
True.
switch
But that's
to
the whole,
channel.
that was the whole point. So
That's what I do already.
So it brings out, anyway, when they go to talk about it, they're bringing up the dashboard, and the dashboard looked a lot like the 360 dashboard.
Yeah.
It was darker,
It's
because
very,
everything's darker now.
very Windows.
Yeah, it looked
Yeah,
like
with
the
its,
Metro
crisp
Windows 8
edges and
stuff.
yeah.
But they did specify that you can now customize your home screen, so you can put your own shit on it, and it will show things like the last game you were playing and stuff that interests you. Sort of what like it's doing at the moment, but a bit more focused, and it made it sound like I would have more control over what was there,
Right.
which is cool, right? That sounds like the pinning feature
Yeah.
from this,
But you-
But
all
better
over
but
the
stuff,
yeah,
screen.
but sensible, right? You
Yeah.
know. So again, I'm going to say this a lot throughout the discussion about this, like an iPad or like a tablet and device in some way, where you have got that level of customization of what I want on each screen.
Or
Yeah.
a Windows 8 phone.
Yeah, or on
Yeah.
So that made sense. And then its key feature was that they were going on was like it's a pain in the ass to flick through sources. When you're watching TV, like you've got your TV on one source, you've got your console on another source, maybe you've got a DVD player on another one, a Blu-ray player or a Skybox or whatever, and there's all these different sources, and it's a pain in the ass to change. Now, I will agree, it is a pain in the ass to have to change sources.
Press that button, yeah.
No, but it's
Yeah,
not
no,
instant
yeah,
as well. It
yeah.
takes a little bit of
Yeah.
time, and you've got to find the right one, because my TV has fucking 27
Yeah,
inputs,
yeah.
and I'm using 2.
Yeah.
Right, so if it's not the next one, I've got to go ding, 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 ding all the way through until I get to it. For me, it's not much of a problem because I am only using 2. But if I go to my parents' house, they're using like 6, and it is a pain in the ass. We're like, which one's the DVD? Which one? They're all on. Some of them are showing blue screens. Some of them are giving TV snow. Some of them are showing shit TV. So that's that. So the idea with this is that basically Microsoft are saying you will never touch a remote control again, ever.
Yeah.
I still have to put my telly on standby.
I guess. Yeah, because it won't turn your TV off.
At this point.
Yeah.
Xbox, turn the TV off.
Yeah, that's true. So you will have to turn it, but you don't have to touch the remote for that. You can go up to the TV if you want.
Yes, this is true.
But yeah, so it's all playing there, and then basically what they demonstrated was this multitasking thing. Again, like a tablet, an iPad, or an iPhone, or whatever. This idea of like you've got TV running in the background constantly because it's going through your Xbox. You've got games running as well. You've got movies playing and music playing and internet browsing. And at any point, you can just switch between those like you would apps on a phone.
I want a USB toaster so it can do everything.
Yeah, you can't. You don't really want that though.
You can just have a toaster in front of you, plugged into your Xbox, and ding, you get some
Yeah,
toast.
I feel like that's something you would really like for marathon sessions of gaming, but in your everyday life,
You
especially
don't
next to
really.
this very high-end looking piece of kit, that might separate you out into a different bracket.
Okay.
But yeah, so you can flip between these things nice and easily, right?
Yeah,
and it
did
was all
look...
gesture-based and voice-based.
To be fair, I already do this through my Xbox anyway. Most of my television viewing is on Netflix.
Yep.
Or through Xbox
Sure.
Source with Microsoft.
Yes.
Like a USB stick.
But the difference with this, and we should actually point this out actually, because Sean, you haven't watched the presentation.
No.
And
No,
obviously
yeah.
Joe and I have. The difference with this being is it's instant.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
like changing
Yeah,
a
I get
channel
that.
on a TV,
And
right?
it's with these voice commands, it's so much more in depth. So you can go Xbox, Netflix. You'll go to Netflix, and you go say a show, and it will instantly pop up. And
Yeah.
you can control your TV. You can get up TV guide. You can switch channels. It'll do all of it for
So the
you.
TV guide was pretty cool, I thought.
Yeah.
It gave you a full-on TV guide like what you've seen on Sky or anything like that, but enabled you to almost subscribe to channels. So you had a favourites channel where you could literally go, I watch Breaking Bad and I watch Game of Thrones. Literally only put those up there, and it made you like you were making your own Netflix,
Sure.
which was pretty cool. And then obviously I had recommendations from friends. Again, similar stuff to what Netflix does already. And stuff recommended on what you were watching. So all that was kind of cool. That's not revolutionary, but it's kind of, I feel like in a couple of years' time, that's all you're going to see, and probably because of Xbox, right? But you were always going to see that anyway. Eventually, it doesn't seem like it's mind-blowingly awesome, but
Yeah.
it does seem like something I will completely take for granted very soon.
Sure.
And I will totally need it. In the same way that all of this stuff we are used to having on tablets and on iPhones and on various things like that, and we just already take them for granted. The idea of you switching between two things running at the same time, you just do all the fucking time now,
Yeah.
right? How long have you had, when did it change on your laptop when, Firefox brought out separate tabs on your thing, and you're like, I've got 2 websites up at once, it's mental. But there was a time when you didn't do that, right?
Yeah.
So the idea that these features aren't good or worthwhile is silly, because they genuinely are, but they just don't maybe set the world on fire when you hear about it.
Yeah.
What was interesting is it got you to do the sort of Back to the Future multi-channel sort of thing, where they showed the guy who was watching Star Trek on TV, a movie, and then he also got the web browser up as well, and it splits the screen halfway. Well, not halfway, it was kind of like 2/3 or a little bit longer, but it had a column of the screen for the web
Sure.
browsing. And then you could just browse the web, and controlling it with Smart Glass.
Yeah.
So Smart Glass was a real
Yeah.
fucking pillar of this thing, wasn't it? They were like, it's so many components. It's Xbox Live, it's Connect, and it's Smart Glass. And you're like,
Yeah.
well, that's the bit you're not giving me in the box.
They were probably going into, you use your Kinect, your controller, and your smart glass to control this thing,
Yeah.
and they even went into at one point saying about it will register what you're doing with your controller, so you lift it up and things will change on the screen as you're doing this.
Yeah,
And
because it assumes you're ready to play,
Yeah.
essentially. But yeah, so Smart Glass was a real big factor. It's a real key part of it, and it's sort of like, well, yeah, I mean, that kind of makes sense, right? They're just assuming everyone has smartphones, which is a fair assumption, because everyone
people
has
do, yeah.
smartphones, right? And it's the one thing they're missing. Sony have got the Vita for the PS4,
Yeah.
and obviously the Wii U has that weird Fisher-Price thing. So that was cool. They're browsing the web, and he started searching stuff, and he's like, check this out for a demonstration. The guy's like, yeah, it's awesome. I'm watching Star Trek. I can bring up the internet browser and watch the trailer for Star Trek.
yeah.
Admittedly, it was the trailer for the second Star Trek movie, but I was also thinking, why are you watching a trailer for a movie whilst watching a movie? That seems mental, So yeah, but that was cool, and then they just flipped between music and all those other things, and did it instantly. And he
Yeah.
did not think throughout the presentation. He was like, "Let's do that again."
yeah.
Every 10 seconds, he was like, "And let's just do that one more time."
Yeah,
And it's
let's
like, "No, I
just have a
believed
look
you.
at that,
I
yeah.
got it the first time."
I did see it
Yeah,
once
I
already.
understand that if you can fake it once, you can probably fake it twice. But yeah, everything that guy was like, "Yeah, I'll do it again." No,
Yeah, it was like he fired up Skype and he had that short little conversation, and then just like, yeah, and cool, as the guy was still
Yeah.
talking as well.
yeah, that's true.
Just like cut him off, like, yeah, that'll do.
So Skype's out the box. That's in there straight away. Microsoft bought Skype a couple of years ago now, I think it was. And so that just seems to replace all sort of video communication. Obviously with Connect 2.0, it's 1080p. The angle of view is really wide. It looked good.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest. And you can do mass conversations. Big conference calls with lots of people,
Okay.
which is that's all right, I suppose. Again, not something I'm necessarily gonna
Use very often.
use that much, but we might. I don't know. What else was there? Connect, all this other wishy-washy nonsense. The
Like,
pinching and
pinching the
zooming, the
screen,
pinch
yeah,
and
yeah,
zoom, yeah.
yeah.
Again, stuff we were used to, right? In order
Yeah.
to say you're watching something on TV, you're watching a movie or whatever, you want to get back to the dashboard, you kind of just put your arms out, like you're
And-
grabbing the corners of the screen and you squish them together, like
And
you
it-
would do with your fingers on an iPad.
Yeah,
Like,
and it just continues playing there while you're doing something else.
yeah, and
So
you can just
what-
make it bigger again.
Yeah, so whatever your last thing was you were doing, it just remains running there as well.
Yeah. So all that was kind of cool.
Does it work sitting down?
I'm assuming so.
Yeah.
Because obviously Kinect's got issues with people standing up. I
Yeah,
appreciate it's not the
a
same
lot of
product.
things. No.
but-
There was no. It didn't. They didn't mention it. I think.
Sure.
I think we're
And
beyond that now.
it did seem a lot more advanced, this version of Kinect,
Yeah.
compared to the last one.
So, I mean, they talked about other stuff. They talked about Xbox Live as an infrastructure as well going forward, didn't they? Where they said that, like, when they first launched Xbox Live for the original Xbox,
Yeah.
that they had something like 300 or 500 servers, I think,
yeah.
for it. And then they went with 360. We went up to like 1,000 servers or whatever, and then we went up to like 5,000 servers,
yeah.
and they were like, it's amazing. And now we're at about 5,000 or something. And then they were like, for Xbox One, we're going to 500,000.
300,000.
300,000 servers worldwide to do it, which is awesome. That's a huge difference.
Yeah, it was the fact that he said as well, when we're going to 300,000 servers, which was more than the entire
Oh, yeah.
internet of 1999.
Yeah, it was
So
more
they're
computing
7
power than
yeah.
9, and that was on the planet in 99.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. But again, I don't have any problems with Xbox Live really
No, yeah.
anyway. You know, that's fine. I know if any problems that I get now are from my internet being shit, not
Yeah.
Xbox Live. That's kind of my issue. And internet's just changed because, well, you've just got super flash episodes.
Episodes. Yeah, I have just recently upgraded the fiber optic broadband,
Yeah.
which
Which does make a bit of a
amazing.
difference.
Yeah,
You kind of
yeah.
don't have to worry about it.
And do you know what his biggest complaint is? There's 2 boxes.
Yeah.
Oh, there's 2 boxes. How can I cope with
Well,
this
it
super
takes up an
fast
extra plug
internet?
socket. Yeah, but
It's
it is just like, you don't realise how much fibre optic broadband is useful until you get it. Because like download speed is just insanely fast.
Yeah.
You're downloading like a 4 gig update for like Battlefield, like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's just
It's
insane.
a big
yeah.
deal. So they're increasing that to make things better, but I don't really know how it's going to necessarily make things better. It just means things are going to work more the way it should, right? What was interesting about the multitasking sort of app style of the way the system works was that they suggested that you could be, say, searching for a multiplayer game in say Halo, and while you're waiting for it to find that game, you could be playing another game.
Yeah.
You know, or watching a movie or whatever. But that's interesting. Except for, it never takes me that long to find a game in an online game. But like, I wouldn't get past the fucking Bink video startup screen of another game before I'd have to go back to it. So, but interesting.
Yeah,
That means
it
they specifically mentioned 2 games at
Yeah.
once. So that's that's pretty cool.
Does it give you notifications then?
I don't know. Again,
They haven't really, yeah.
Talking about games, they didn't show any games really.
Yeah, just a few minor
They showed
bits.
a lot of features. Actually, before we go into games, let's talk about some of the TV features. 'Cause again, TV obviously was the biggest thing. There was a lot of stuff that slightly worried me with it because with the 360, Microsoft did a lot of really awesome stuff with TV and certainly sport.
Yeah.
With ESPN and the fighty people, the MMA people, whatever they were,
UFC.
the UFC guys, and all that was kind of interesting, but it never came over here.
No.
We didn't get a lot of that stuff at all. And in America, your 360 does a hell of a lot more than it does here,
yeah.
right? And they showed an awful lot of this stuff for the Xbox One. A lot of partnerships with, again, sports stuff. wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it was
all
like
sports stuff.
they made that major announcement of like partnering up with NFL now for the first time.
Yeah,
And,
which is huge. That's a real
Yeah.
big deal for America.
Yeah.
You know, and
That's
it would
the
still
thing,
be
yeah.
a really. I'm not discrediting it totally and going it just wouldn't fly over here. It's just that we just won't even get it over
No,
here.
yeah.
And so that makes me worry about then the connecting the TV stuff into it of how much. I mean, surely they've thought of this and they're going to be more dedicated to that. But with the 360, we got a little bit fucked. Like Europe got a little bit fucked on those services compared to America. And I do worry about how many of those services they went on about in this presentation
That we won't get.
that we might not get. Yeah. Or we get a sort of slightly gimpier version of. So that was a bit interesting.
It
but
is, yeah.
there was rumours before of them making their own programming. Do you remember there was that rumour that was going
Yeah.
around about Heroes coming back? Do you remember that? Did you hear about that?
I didn't hear
Yes,
that
There
one.
was a
did,
rumour about
yeah.
Microsoft bringing back the show Heroes exclusively for Xbox, in that same way that Netflix now is doing
Yeah.
House of Cards, with,
Arrested Development.
and Arrested
Yeah.
Development. Yeah, so that sort of thing's happening all the time. Was it Amazon that did Zombieland? Or
I
the
think they were
Zombieland
involved
TV
in
series.
it.
They've
Yeah,
now
yeah.
cancelled that, but there's a lot of
Yeah.
people are making their own TV series all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Microsoft announced their own a Halo TV series.
Steven Spielberg in it as well.
With Steven Spielberg involved, yeah. Which, two things from that. One, the title screen on the camera just said Halo, the TV,
TV show,
series.
yeah.
It was like, that's a shit name for anything, right? Two, I also thought, I've seen Steven Spielberg up on this stage before, talking his little 2 cents about I love games, and games are great, and I'm going to do something with you, and I promise I'll do it. And then not doing it, you know? And there's two things. Like, Boom Blocks was what I was involved in before, which was that shit game that was shit.
Yeah.
And then there was a whole load of other games that just never came out. And I think you even had a pseudo attachment to a Halo movie as well at one point,
Yeah,
Sure
right?
did.
So anyway, so he's apparently involved in this. Interestingly, Major Nelson tweeted that Steven Spielberg was going to direct it. This Halo TV series. No way. They never mentioned he was going to direct it. Nowhere else has ever mentioned he's going to direct it. Just Larry Herb just went, he's going to direct it. He's fucking no way he's going to direct it. No way. He'll like executive produce the first series.
But by executive producer,
Maybe direct the first
he'll sit in
episode.
an office and
He will watch the TV show.
Yeah, he might watch one of the episodes, or two, the one he directs. He'll direct one episode and he'll watch that.
No, he will just executive produce, sit in an office and go, yeah, I'm involved in Halo.
Yeah.
And then maybe watch an
it was
episode.
interesting, but I just felt like, because of those memories, I thought, and I know Peter Jackson was more attached to the Halo project than Steven Spielberg was, but I'm sure there was a time when he was involved.
Yeah, I'm
pretty sure
pretty
there
sure,
was.
yeah.
And I just thought all the times when he's going, yeah, and Halo's something I really want to get involved in. I thought, fuck you, man. You didn't know, this hasn't happened. And I also don't care about Halo enough anymore. It's kind of too late for that, I think, as far as I'm concerned. Although, Forward Unto Dawn was cool. And
I think that's what
Halo
the push
TV
was,
series
wasn't
could
it?
be okay. Yeah, I think that's what's changed people's minds on it. So that was interesting. It was interesting that they kept referring to it as a TV show as well, because I thought this is never going to be broadcast on TV.
But you will watch it.
It's
on
more,
TV.
it's more of a web series than
Yeah.
a TV show.
So yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
I thought. Did you like the bit where Steven Spielberg got up there and he started giving you the little history of video games? That he was playing Pong back in 1978.
Yeah.
And it was just a few pixels, but now the world's so much bigger. And I was just thinking, who the fuck are you telling me?
Where
Why are
are
you
you
trying to school me on video games?
Where did he get his
Spielberg?
script
Who the
from?
fuck are you? You know, like, oh yeah, Pong was really simple, wasn't it? Like, yeah, I know. Just tell me what you're doing. He couldn't even be there. He wasn't even there. He was on a video. Spielberg. Anyway, so they did that. There's the NFL stuff. There's a load of other nonsense. Then they showed a few games. EA came out. A guy from EA Sports came out and went, EA Sports games. They're not on every system. They'll be on this one.
Yeah. Did mention an exclusive deal with EA as well, didn't they?
Yeah,
Of
they said
some
that they had a
sorts.
partnership. It wasn't necessarily, they didn't mention necessarily exclusivity, but there was a partnership with Xbox to do with their sports titles. But then they did say the same thing with Wii U, and I'm sure they'll say the same thing with everyone. And it's it's EA, right? They're in the business to make money. They will make money. They do make money, and they'll make money on every console. That's what they do.
Yeah.
They did mention one bit of exclusivity though, which was for FIFA 14, which was the Ultimate Team stuff. They would have exclusive only on Xbox. I don't know what the Ultimate Team thing is.
Basically, it's like card trading to build an online team.
Which
It seems to get a lot of flack online.
Well, it's because you pay money to
That's
get
it,
given
yeah.
cards.
Right.
And it's what I've understood by talking to people is the more money you spend, the more likely it is to give you a nice card.
Yeah,
And people spend
Okay.
hundreds of
So
pounds.
kind of like the Mass Effect 3 like loot pack things you buy in the multiplayer thing, where you get like...
Yeah, but
Yeah.
more so because it's specific players, right?
Yeah.
You want,
Right,
you want
okay.
those gold
Well, so
cards.
it's
Yeah.
specifically like buying fucking old playing cards back in the day,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's exclusive to the Xbox version.
Right.
For 14. That was the only thing they said, and they went, "We'll talk to you more about it later down the line." Fine, whatever. It doesn't really matter, right? That's who cares.
Who really
about that
cares?
sort of
Yeah.
stuff. Forza Horizon. Forza 5. They showed. You like Forza, Joe?
I am a big fan of car porn.
Well, and car porn's like the thing they use, right? It's like
Yeah.
if you want to make your console look like it can do something, you
Car
put
porn,
cars on it, right?
Because it's just a shiny car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I never think that stuff looks good, and everyone always thinks it looks amazing. And I'm like, well, car games haven't looked. Like, PGR3, every game has looked the same as PGR3 since PGR3.
Like, there's like graphically they have got a lot more detailed as they
Okay.
go along, especially if you play a game in cockpit view. You do notice the changes from what it used to be to what it is now.
Forza's a big one, though.
Yeah.
Forza's essentially the market leader now. It kind of overtook Gran Turismo. Didn't
And
it?
yeah, it's like Gran Turismo seriously lost. Fun.
So that was interesting. The trailer didn't really show anything.
Yeah, and it wasn't specific to what it is. It's most likely a CGI video of sorts.
Yeah, sure. Well, the only thing I thought that I picked up from the trailer, which I don't know if was intentionally there to get that message across, is there was commentary throughout the whole race.
Yeah.
And I think that might be one of the things you would see in the
Which
in the
would be
game.
extremely fucking irritating
Yeah,
if it was,
yeah, it's true. So Forza 5, that was a launch game.
Yep.
They also showed a game from Remedy called Quantum Break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was an amazing advert for it.
Wasn't
Yeah.
it? It was weird. So it was like Remedy logo comes up, and you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, fucking hell, Remedy, and a load of people start freaking out about Alan Wake
Yeah.
2 or whatever, and it's like, oh, it's Quantum Break, and it goes to this live action scene. This is amazing, right?
It's just awesome.
Live action scene of a woman, no, of people getting into a car, getting
It's
ready
like
to
a
leave.
family getting to go on holiday or something. Yeah.
And mum figure turns to daughter figure, although she couldn't have been her daughter because
She doesn't know what
She doesn't
her
seem to
magic
know.
ability
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
and what does she say? She says,
She goes.
"What makes you
"So-
special?"
Yeah. So what makes you so special?
And the daughter goes, are you sure you want me to show you or something?
Yeah. It's just like, I'll show you or something like
Yeah.
that. And then proceeds to reach up and grab her earlobe, and then it cuts to CG.
So that's it. So the daughter, she asks her, why are you so special? The daughter says, I don't want to tell you. She's like, go on, tell me. And then she goes, okay, I'll show you. She grabs the mother's earlobe, and then it whisks you away into a non-live action CGI environment where a tanker, a boat, crashes into a bridge.
Yeah, it's like the boat's going along, then some weird thing happens, it teleports, and then crashes into a bridge.
Directly as she grabs the earlobe.
Yeah.
Though. So that was nuts. And then it comes back to the little girls in the car, and she just kind of looks like, see, I told you. Told you I patched. I don't know what's going on. And then it goes to just a bit more gameplay, which looked a little bit like Max Payne and Alan Wake, or Remedy games, I guess you could say. And I didn't get much from that, apart from it's probably got bullet time in it.
Probably, yeah.
You know, it said
And
something about
teleporting tankers.
yeah, it said something about time, didn't it? It said, like, the words that came up on screen said something like, time is the only thing that stops you from being alive.
Well, it's called
or something.
Quantum for a start.
Yeah. So that was interesting.
Made me laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The trailer was breathtaking
Yeah, it
just
was.
because of that weird girl in the earlobe thing.
I just couldn't
It was
stop.
so strange. I know Remedy always put live action stuff in everything they do, but it just made no sense.
I know, just
It
like,
was like the trailer was only like 20 seconds long
it
and they
would have
needed to
made more
pad it
sense
out.
if she'd like put her hand to the side of her head like she was communicating with her brain, not her ear.
It was. We know nothing about that game. It looked like third person Alan
Something.
Wakey style stuff, right? So what else did they show? Call of Duty.
Yeah, Ghosts.
Call of Duty Ghosts, which came out, which is not exclusive. They did use that as a platform to announce the fact that the deal that previously was on of
It's still
all
going.
Call of Duty content will come out first on Xbox. That's still going forwards. Ghosts looked alright.
Yeah, it looked like Call of Duty, but shinier.
Yeah.
And with the dog.
Yeah, so that's
With a
basically what it's
dog.
Call of Duty with a dog.
Yeah.
That was it.
Can't
Yeah.
you lean in this one?
I don't know. Can
And
you
there's
imagine?
tropical fish with AI.
There's tropical
Yeah,
fish with
it's
AI. There is
yeah.
that. That's
Yeah,
true.
they move out the way.
It's
just
a
with
whole new engine.
Yeah.
Which they needed. And
Yeah,
that needs to be
yeah.
updated.
It was
anyway.
about time after
It
like,
did
the
look a
last-
lot better. They
Yeah.
made it was a weird demonstration because they showed you like this behind the scenes thing. It went on for ages.
Yeah.
They showed
It
like
was, like,
behind the
6
scenes
minutes of
video
behind
of
the
like
scenes.
we're at an Infinity War and people are like, yeah, to make the greatest game, we look at the greatest guns and then we put the greatest guns in the game. And it's like, okay, cool, wicked. We got a dog now. Look, he's got fur. And then it was like, and then they showed you like a trailer for the game, and then they like showed you a comparison between old Modern Warfare and this.
Yeah.
And then they showed you some gameplay.
Yeah.
And it was like, how many fucking little videos are you going to give us?
Yeah, and they were really going on about a dog. And what I did notice on Twitter was that the dog has its
dog
own
has a Twitter account,
yeah,
yeah.
which I found hilarious.
Yeah, it's worth checking out.
Did they have Peter Monolith just going, you don't control the dog?
Yeah.
Well, no,
Um,
I did see someone tweet the Lionhead Studios go, "It will never break my love between me and my dog in Fable," and then they just retweeted it to everyone.
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. Though. There is
Yeah.
already a parody
Yeah.
account for the dog. I watched my favourite parody account is for Kaz Hirai, by the way, the PlayStation head honcho guy. Oh, he's not anymore, but he used to be. The Ridge Racer guy. And after that PlayStation announcement, just to cut in there, yesterday Sony put out a teaser video
Yeah.
showing what the PlayStation 4 would look like, but it didn't really show anything.
It was
all blurry
a black
shots.
box
It
with
did.
blur and some random.
This
yeah.
parody account of Kaz Hirai just tweeted saying, yeah, sorry about that. All those shots weren't supposed to be blurry. We just took them on a Vita camera. I just thought that was awesome. So they showed this dog. They went on and on about this dog.
Yeah.
He's like another companion. Apart from that, it looked like more Call of Duty. Although I
Yeah.
really liked what they were doing with multiplayer, which they were putting dynamic elements
Maps.
into the maps, multiplayer maps. So like a flash flood will happen, or you could destroy stuff and stuff will fall down. A bit kind of like bloody Halo 2 maps, you know, when you could open the doors in Zanzibar or stuff like that. You know, I like elements of maps.
Yeah.
When I was back working at Square, very nearly announced a game that hasn't been announced. A game I was working on, we were dealing with specifically that for multiplayer, with having dynamic actions in maps. And that's what I really wanted, because I remember the days back when you were playing GoldenEye on the N64 and you could go through a door and close it behind you.
Yeah.
And that's a key factor. So that was kind of cool. I kind of like that. It looked alright. It looked pretty good.
Yeah, it does look very good. That the new engine they've got does look very good, and for like a first release game on a new next gen, it does look very good.
Again, it was a launch game as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So the interesting thing that they did say was they said that Microsoft themselves, Microsoft Game Studios, had more games in development currently than they've ever had in development at any one time in the whole of their history, which is cool. And it was 15 games that they said they were going to come out in the first year of the system. 15 games.
That's
of which
that's a lot of home support.
Yeah, of which 8 of them would be new IP.
Yeah.
Which is also awesome. So presumably those new IP are things like Quantum Break or whatever it's called. Rise would be one of them, I guess. That Crytek game that was a Kinect game, the Warrior thingy.
The Greeks, Romans. Yeah.
I thought that died.
No, that's still on. So that'd be one of them. I was trying to think what they would all be, because that means that 7 of them are classic franchises, which presumably are Halo, Fable, Gears of War, Forza.
Yeah, you've also got things like, because they own Rare as well now, so they could do something with that.
I guess, some other kind of stuff. And it might not all be full
titles,
blown releases. There might be XBLA titles, right?
Yeah.
But still, 8 new IPs is a lot for the first year, which is cool. So we can't argue with that. I tell you, we haven't spoken about the joypad.
The controller.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
We used to call them joypads back in the 80s.
Because games used to be fun in the 80s.
That's true.
Yeah.
We used to get
You didn't control what you were doing. You had fun. Yeah.
It wasn't a serious
so
business.
the controller then, Joe,
Sorry.
which was basically, they said they had put 40 new innovative features and improvements into it. They look like more like 3.
Yeah.
Looking at it.
So you could only notice a few of them.
They've retrospect the D-pad, which I'm happy about. It's 4-way directional, not 8-way.
It does appear that they've moved the analog, the back triggers down a little bit, like they were with the original.
Well, they said about the triggers, didn't they? They have they've got like vibrators in them.
Force
feedback. Force fucking feedback.
Me and you seem to very much like the analog sticks, where they've got that
they
weird
look kind
tire
of cool.
bit.
They look like they've got car tires on the
Yeah.
ends. That was kind of cool. The battery, they've said, is smaller, so it's kind of less out of the way. We were talking about this earlier, and I think you're right, Joe. That probably means that
it's built in.
It's built in, and it's not, or maybe it's removable, but it's still like a thin lithium ion rather than AA's or anything like that. That's fine. No start and select or back button or whatever.
Yeah, it's the 2-box button and the list button. Because they didn't say what they were.
They didn't mention them at all.
It's the box with the box behind it and then the list.
Yeah, like the Windows pop-out button. Yeah. Like if you want to pop the video player out of the web browser.
You press the button, it'll bring up everything that you're running.
It was
and
weird.
It's select,
Guarantee you that's a start and a select button.
Yeah, probably.
There always has been, always will be forever. So
it doesn't look like they have the guide button like they do now.
No,
but there is. Like it's still there, but we don't know if it works.
Kind of like on the front of the system, it's got the Xbox logo, and then it just kind of lights up.
I'm not sure if that's the on-off button.
Oh, I want a guide button. I don't want to have to grab the corners of my screen every time I want to fucking stop playing a game.
You could say, Xbox, grab the corners of the screen for me.
Xbox, I'm sure Xbox Home would work.
So other than that, controller looked pretty much the same, but it did say about force feedback specifically in the triggers, which would be tweakable by
options
developers. I was going for, but options, I guess. They did mention really briefly, they went, you'll be able to capture footage of your stuff you're playing and then edit it and then put it online. And then carried on. That was it. So I'm presuming that's what those other buttons were maybe there for. Like a share button like the PS4 has, where they specifically mention you video editing content that you have recorded from, it's a DVR for games. Yeah. So fair enough, that's cool. It's all in the cloud.
The cloud that they didn't mention much about.
Well, they didn't, did they? Immediately after the presentation stopped, the first news story that went up everywhere was the Xbox One won't play pre-owned games.
Yes, it will charge you to play pre-owned games.
Yeah. So there's 2 things that they didn't mention, which are I'm okay with this, but I'm prepared for this to get a bit nasty. 1, backwards compatibility ain't happening.
It was something that I was sort of expecting, really.
Yeah,
it's like it doesn't happen these days.
If you buy something new, don't expect it to run the stuff that doesn't work for it. Like, it's just fucking nuts.
It was literally.
You mean like your Blu-ray player running DVDs?
Yeah, I don't expect my Blu-ray player to run DVDs
or CDs.
Or CDs.
But it does.
But it does. It does. That's a bonus. That's a rare thing. I don't expect to buy. Like, I'm not complaining that my Wii's not playing Super Nintendo games. Although it is, because we do virtual
But
console.
like, how many consoles were properly backwards compatible? And that's
Who
the
gives a
PlayStation
fuck,
2.
really,
So-
anyway?
Yeah.
Who wants to play
Everyone-
some old,
a
broken-ass
little bit.
piece of shit game
A
from
little
the
bit.
system previously?
Inside,
No, they don't.
they care a
They
little
don't.
bit.
There are
Keep your
there are
systems.
there are
They care a
some
little
yeah
bit.
there are moments where you feel like playing an old game, but
Yeah.
generally you've got an old system.
Exactly.
That will
What's
do
that
it.
sitting over in the corner there, Joe?
But we had this argument
It's a
earlier, didn't we,
Vectrex,
Mike?
that's
We
right.
had this argument earlier, Mike, didn't we?
Yeah.
And it's that Super Nintendos,
Don't break.
they will last nuclear fucking holocaust.
Yeah, but we also, the counter to
20
that was
years.
you don't play your Super Nintendo.
20 years, there ain't going to be no Xboxes for me to play Knights of the Old Republic.
In
on for
20
10
years' time, you're
minutes.
not going to want to play Knights of the Old Republic.
You don't know that.
I
I'm
don't
sure
know
in
that,
20
I'm
years
really
you
confident.
can get. I'm sure in 20 years there'll be an emulator for
Yeah.
PC that will run
Yeah,
the
guaranteed.
Republic. Yeah.
Very
The,
true.
the deal is anyway, look, it ain't going to play your 360 games.
No.
Get fucked. And that's fine,
Yeah.
because you're not going to want to play your 360 games. Now, the flip side of that is a little bit is we did hope, we all thought that was going to be the case, but we did kind of hope that maybe our XBLA titles
Yeah.
would work, and they're not going to. Which sucks a bit, but only really sucks because now I'm not going to buy any more XBLA titles.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
know that they've got a really limited window. Not that ones I play last 6 months anyway, but I have got you now got to consider like, well, I'm probably not going to use this machine very much anymore, you know. So there was that, but then yeah, the pre-owned thing is another issue. Basically, the way the system works is that it's a mandatory install for every single game. So when you put your game into your machine the first time on its Blu-ray, because we didn't mention, but it does have a Blu-ray player, obviously. Oh, we did mention that, but we've mentioned it again. Just to,
Yeah,
double
just to make
whammy.
sure you know.
Anyway, so you put your game in, and the system will automatically start to install that game. It doesn't ask you about it, it doesn't fuck you about it, it just does it, and it has to do it.
Yeah.
And then once that's done, I can literally throw the disc, out the window, and the game will still run. That's fine. It doesn't need the disc
No.
to run. But then what I can do is I can then give the disc to you, Joe, and you can start to install it. However,
I have to pay to install it.
you have to pay to install
Yeah.
it, which makes sense. This is why EA this week got rid of all their online
Online
passes, right? So this kind of sucks. This means pre-owned games, as you know them, are going away. Because what this does mean is that Sony will do the same. They will. They
Yeah.
will. If you don't believe me, they will.
At this point, though, it hasn't been clarified if
They
the
will.
disc will just play the game without installing. I know you said it's a
Yeah.
mandatory install for everything, but they have said games will run offline.
They have, yeah,
Yeah.
they have said they work offline.
So like it's
I
just
don't know
like,
how that's going to work.
Yeah, this is the thing. Until there's further information, we
Well,
have
no,
no
actually, I
clue
do
what-
know
yeah.
how that's going to work. Maybe here's a way that could work: is that they can still run offline as long as they have been online.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? So, basically, this is why it's confusing: is that they've said that this stuff's not. We know this stuff's not going to work, right? There's going to be a fee for pre-owned games.
Yeah.
Okay. What we also know is that Microsoft now have put up on Xbox.com a thing saying that they are looking into a system where you will be able to trade and sell your games. But it'll probably be some sort of system through them and involving some sort of marketplace to digitally transfer the rights to it. However, with you being able to play offline,
yes,
I can see what that being is that's just their way of getting around the always online if there's a cock up. Because
Yeah.
that would mean if I bought a game, I've installed it, I sell it to you, Joe, you install it, okay, it will work once you'll have to be online at some point throughout that thing just to activate it essentially. And then if your system goes offline, it doesn't matter, it will work because your system will know that you at one point activated it. But I bet you there comes out with a thing saying unless you have that internet connection at some point, you won't be able to do that. Because that's how they do it. They just go, well, I'm sorry, if you're not online, you can't buy second-hand games digitally through us online from your friends or whatever, because of course you can't.
yeah,
That would work. But it does mean that game's fucked. And, well, I'm not just is there anyone else in the game? Or did game just fuck everyone else and there are no other shops left anymore? Game retailers, as they stand on the high street, are not going to like the idea that pre-owned games are going to disappear. Right? Unless, well, I tell you what, they're going to have a lot of 3DS games. And I hear they're selling really well. So, yeah, but that's the interesting thing, right? It's just going to change stuff. Pre-owned games are going to go.
The way that stands also means that I can't loan you a game.
Nope.
no,
Nope, you can't.
I mean, technically, under broadcasting law with videos, you're not supposed to loan
Yeah,
it to
yeah,
other
sure,
people.
yeah.
But everyone does it, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's fair enough.
At this point, it means that if I do buy a disc of a game, I am sort of stuck with the disc of a game, and at this point,
It
can't
does.
trade it in. Yeah,
I mean, well, but you don't need the disc to play it.
yeah. This is the point, though. But at some point, I may want to buy something else, be short on cash, and want to trade into buy something
Right,
else.
okay. But that's
at
where
this point-
Microsoft are then saying that they're going to do some sort of system to do that.
But what is it?
But yeah, and they're going to set the prices, I would imagine. Well,
Yeah.
it does mean that I'll never have to go into game again and be offered to buy a pre-owned copy of a game for literally only £2 less than it is new. Because every time that happens, it does make me want to stab someone in the throat. You know, no pre-owned game should cost $34.99 when the new game costs $37 or whatever. That's mental, and that's just kind of fat cats getting fatter, right? So I'm quite happy with that because I don't fucking go in game shops anyway because they suck. And Sean, you bought more stuff digitally than I've ever known this year.
Yeah, but that's only because I've been immobilised.
Yeah, true, I suppose. But
I
regardless,
still like going into shops. I still like buying something
yeah,
tactile.
and you still will be able to just to buy your new stuff or your pre-owned 3DS games. So, regardless of what we think of it anyway, this is happening,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
sure.
And it's going to happen across the board. Everyone wants it to happen apart from kind of game and the consumers, right? But it doesn't matter about that. Once
Yeah,
it's
it doesn't-
decided
the
from
consumers-
higher up.
Who gives
Yeah.
a fuck about
Who
the consumers,
cares
right?
about the
Yeah, but you don't-
customers? Yeah.
there's a reason why we don't get to make the decisions
Yeah.
for the people that are making the money off of what we're spending, right? And
But how
I don't
much-
care about the shops because they're sort of a separate. Well, you're just kind of getting in there in the middle anyway and just doing quite well out of this
I'm
whole
just
situation.
curious about how much money people are going to make nowadays when people are like, I can't play my pre-owned games, maybe I won't buy a console.
Yeah,
And how many sales will they lose at this point?
I
because
don't
of
think
that?
they'll lose as many as you think, but I think that's going to have an effect.
Yeah.
But then the flip side is as well that how much does that help the industry as a whole? Because it means that pre-owned sales, if they are being done, I mean, Microsoft can go to publishers like Square Enix and Ubisoft and go, look, we are doing this stuff with pre-owned sales. We're going to allow it, but it does mean that when we allow people to trade stuff back in or whatever, you're going to get some money back from it. When someone buys your game secondhand, instead of you getting nothing and GameStation or wherever getting the money for it, you're going to get some. And developers and publishers will be like, fuck yes, that's exactly what we want.
But at the same time, on the flip of that, it's like if Microsoft are controlling the value of your product,
Yeah,
you've got that's a monopoly straight out of the bat.
sure. Yeah.
You've got nowhere to go and go like, well, you're offering me £6, you're offering me £5. I'll go to guys offering me £6.
But nothing's coming back. The other
So
way.
then, how many new titles are not purchased?
I'm not
as
sold because
much?
people haven't
Yeah.
got the
Yeah,
money
yeah.
to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's worried about that though. I think the problem is that people are they're more concerned with the damage being done by pre-owned sales than they are concerned with the extra sales being made new
To this day,
as a result of that.
that have always existed.
Yes. Oh yeah. Absolutely. And they still can. They still can. It would just be weird. I quite frankly, I would love to be able to go into a game shop, okay, where they sell games and have it not be full of secondhand crap. Like I don't go into HMV and it's full of secondhand albums. I quite like the idea of a shop. I go into a shop and I know that everything in the shop is new. There's not many shops out there apart from fairly dodgy ones and game shops that are secondhand. Anyway, none of that really matters. We can't avoid it. It's gonna happen. It's an attractive deal for a lot of people involved, but not everyone. But we don't actually have a say in it. What it does mean is that rentals are a problem, as you mentioned earlier, John.
It means it's like companies that rent games will no longer be able to do this because there's no way for them to do it.
But all of these things are exploitative practices on the industry as a whole,
Yeah.
right? They're already like the idea of rentals and pre-owned sales are not something that was initially conceived when you create a project. I can,
quibble
but
that.
it's harder for you to.
I would quibble that.
All right.
Because recently, when I went into Blockbusters and asked if they had a game for rent, he said to me, the guy behind the counter said to me, "No, we couldn't crack a deal with that games company."
Okay. Yeah, but that's just for stock, right? That's what that's for. My point is that
I don't know if that was.
everyday stuff you can't rent. Generally, things in life you can't rent. You can rent clothes, but not really, right? You can't go, I need to rent a pair of jeans for the day. You just buy them.
Sure.
And what I mean is it's a
But
tag
consumer
on.
electronics, you can.
Yeah,
like
but
television.
not many these days.
No,
Not as much.
it's lesser than it was. But then
And it's
the
bolt-
value
it's-
of televisions
it's bolt
have
on
dropped,
industry. It's
right?
bolt on industry,
And
which is
televisions
kind of
aren't
weird.
quite as good as they once were. In
And
terms of
Blockbuster's gone under.
build. True.
You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's just one of those things of like times are changing, and that's kind of it.
You have to get on with it.
Yeah, deal with it. That's just it, right? And if it means that all my games are new, then that's fine. It means I don't have scratch discs, and I don't have to pay 27 to. I should never be paying over £30 for a second-hand fucking game. What the fuck is wrong with the planet? That is mental. That is mental. Not one single person on this planet can be sitting there thinking that's fair, ever.
I imagine it's quite.
How
a
can
lot
they be worth different amounts anyway? So?
Because of
Fuck it.
limited prints.
I'm out. Yeah, I know. Okay, and the quality of the game and the amount of people that want it, demands and stuff. Yeah, okay. But still, paying over £30 for a second-hand game is a lot. That is a lot. Everyone complains all the time that games are too expensive. They're not. I don't have a problem with that. I've always thought games have been roughly the same price, about 45 quid.
Yeah, which has always surprised me,
decades.
considering everything's gone up apart from games.
Yeah, but then you also have to remember that games are
Also,
already started 4 times more expensive than everything else. But I don't have a problem with the cost of games, but I do have a problem with the cost of pre-owned games, because they don't need to be that price. There's a lot of people that need to get paid from that £45 per game, and those games have cost millions to make, right? But the pre-owned one, that money's not going to them anyway, and it just doesn't need to be that price. Doesn't need to be that price. Also, you bought it off me for £3. You know?
I don't. When the game is going out onto the shelf at kind of £35, whatever, you're getting that's a £10 profit to the realtor.
Yeah.
They're giving you at least 25 quid for that game in the first place.
Yeah.
And it is
of your new title.
Yeah, it is what keeps these places alive, because what companies make on new consoles and new games and things like that is tiny compared to what it should be compared to other things. Yeah,
sure.
And
sure.
the
But
cost
also,
of
I don't
running
have any
these companies-
responsibility to keep these places alive.
True.
Yeah, I know.
You know, because Microsoft are going to sell it to me without me leaving the house.
Or the only other place you'll be able to buy a tactile copy is Morrison's.
Yeah. Well, and as we discussed earlier offline, the one good thing that comes out of this is that the game shops that you used to love, the ones that were kind of great with nice, decent, earthy people and like fucking cool music playing and SNESes in the cabinets and stuff and old school physical copy stuff, those have got to come back. They get a new chance. Those were crushed by the big retailers that came in and just kind of steamrolled over them, and they couldn't kind of do it. They can come back.
They can't, because they relied on grey import. They relied on pre-owned the same as the big cats do.
Yeah, but they can still have a market for pre-owned in a world where the big cats don't. They can have the market for pre-owned stuff. It just ends with 360. That's all. But someone's going to still sell that stuff, right? I suppose Game can still sell 360 games if it wants. But they won't care, because everything will be... I don't know what that means. But the good thing is... Well, there isn't a good thing for some people. It's not... I don't think it's a big issue, but there's no avoiding it. And if you think that Sony aren't going to do exactly the same thing...
You're mistaken.
You're mistaken, because of course they are, right?
Now Microsoft have done it. Sony can be like, yeah, fuck it, we can do it as well now. We won't be.
But the thing is, earlier I was going, that's it, I'm not getting an Xbox, I'm getting a PC. But hang on, PCs have had codes that you put into them for ages.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. You want to talk about
Decades.
online DRM and stuff like that. It's all there too, of course. So, you know, it's... I mean, but except for no one complains about your PC being online.
No,
despite the fact that it always is.
It's because they've been used to it for like the last 5 years, right?
True.
It's just the transition in the market
PC's
from...
been the test field for all of this shit for ages.
But it does go to show that it doesn't screw up. It's not like my PC's not dropping its internet connection every 5 seconds. It's just fine, right? Most stuff is just fine. Can everyone relax? Okay, if you want something to freak out about the fact that there's absolutely no way you're going to be getting a 360, an Xbox One or a PS4 for less than 400 quid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know?
it's like, those things are going to be expensive.
Well, I will be getting one for less than 400 quid because I ain't buying one
Yeah.
for bloody ages. I ain't got 400
It's
quid.
interesting. So they ended the announcement. They said that it would definitely coming out this year. Again, not really a shock to us. That's all we expected. No idea when. And they'll show us some more in 19 days' time at E3.
Yes.
Where they will be focusing on games, but obviously there'll be 360 stuff as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, cool. All in all, I'm still pumped about it. I think it's cool. I think the system looks wicked. I want a new console.
At this point, I do want one, but it's just, we'll see. We'll see.
I can't believe it.
I'm not fussed. I'd still happily play Super Nintendo if they're still making brand new games for it.
It's shocking. They're not. They're not gonna.
I know it sucks.
It's just, but you know, all right.
Because my Super Nintendo still works.
Still works, but my Xbox still works.
You haven't had it as long
You've
as
got to
I've
bear in
had
mind.
it.
I should explain. I should
Nintendo,
explain
right?
for everyone listening at home. I've never had a problem with any of my devices. They haven't broken. I had a problem with one Xbox 360, and that was it. Got stolen.
I've had 3. I've had 3 Xboxes break down on me.
Yeah, so I
But
think
as
you do. So you must
as
sweat
you
on them or something.
constantly tell me, is that you don't play games
Well, I do play games.
very rarely.
Yeah, well, there we go. Anyway, look, we're going to wrap this up now. We've been talking for about an hour, about as long as the show. If anyone's got any feedback or comments or wants to chat to us about any of this stuff, obviously you can get in touch in the usual ways, which is on Twitter @thingsweplay, or our email address thingsweplay@gmail.com, or on our website thingsweplay.net. We should be back pretty much regularly now. We might have a few changes up as to what day we're coming out, or when we're recording and stuff, but the show should be coming back as usual. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff to talk about with E3 just around the corner. You can expect us to be doing our extreme coverage of E3 that we did last year. It won't be as bad as last year, Joe. Don't worry, because Nintendo aren't doing a conference.
Yeah, they're not this year, so
that,
it's just
that
the 2 this year.
probably saves us. In fact, it is. Yeah, I think one of them will be maybe during the night. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, it's cool to be back. How do you guys feel?
Yeah, it's good to be back. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good to be talking again.
He hasn't spoken since
No,
March.
I have been silent since
Not
then.
said a word.
Been silent.
So yeah, that's cool. Is there anything else I normally say when we sign out? It's been a little while. I'm a bit rusty.
See you later.
Goodbye.
See ya.